Good morning. We just had a little dance session before now. Pretty warm. Welcome to Mixed Level Yoga. So in a couple of days, I celebrate my dad's birthday. And it was about 16 years ago that he left his human body and transitioned. And it got me to thinking about grief and other so-called negative emotions like anger, which we addressed yesterday a little bit of, and how sometimes in our positive-minded communities, it can be difficult to bring light to emotions such as that and those involved in the grieving process. So I decided to look it up a little more, and I love this magazine called Tricycle, which wrote an article called How to Mourn 2020. Here's a few extracts from it. Whether you have suffered an individual loss or are experiencing losses on a global scale, you are torn from the life you knew before. Individually and collectively, we are grieving, and we're experiencing large, difficult feelings, whatever part of that spectrum of grief, even if we don't recognize them as grief, like sorrow, fear, anger, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, or disorientation. Grieving has no predictable stages or particular timeline. Grief has as many different expressions as there are people who grieve. Now remember that grief is not only the loss of someone leaving their human body, which we call death, but we can experience grief in the loss of what we felt was normal in our lives before, anything that we might have lost that was a part of our so-called norm. So this experience, profoundly different for each of us, is confusing and agonizing, and it may also be a doorway for transformation. Though this may be hard to believe or accept at first, grief can be seen as an invitation to grow and eventually to find meaning in suffering and in the experience of loss. A heart that is broken, open, offers a precious gift, a chance to become more authentic with yourself and with other people. But when you try to turn away from grief, when you hope to bypass or escape it, grief, like any other so-called negative emotion, persists. Alan Wolfelt, author, educator, and grief counselor, puts it this way: the pain that surrounds the closed heart of grief is the pain of living against yourself, the pain of denying how the loss changes you, the pain of feeling alone and isolated, unable to openly mourn, unable to love and be loved by those around you. What would it mean to live instead with an open heart, denying none of your pain or grief? Mourning in whatever ways feel appropriate and comforting, being loving and loved by those around you. Holding grief close as a companion allows for opening to love, compassion, hope, and forgiveness. As many people say, the only way to get to the other side is through it. Author and grief therapist Frances Weller writes, when we don't push the pain of grief away, when we welcome and engage it, we live and love more fully. Interestingly, Brene Brown, who I've quoted a few times, who researched a lot about vulnerability, said that we can't isolate a particular emotion to numb when we don't want to feel it. Because when we do so, or when we attempt to do so, we're actually numbing our whole spectrum of being able to feel all emotions, even the so-called positive bliss on the other side. How do we embrace it all as part of our human experience? No matter how difficult it may feel at the time, knowing that anything can be an opportunity to serve our personal growth, our evolution. So here are a few contemplative suggestions according to Tricycle. Spend a few moments reflecting on any rules or expectations you might carry about grief. What do you think grief should look like? How long do you think grief should last? What do you view as a normal or abnormal way to grieve? Consider where you acquired your beliefs about grief. Which beliefs serve you, and which beliefs could you release or let go? As self-study in the practice of yoga is much about really looking at the beliefs that guide our everyday decisions. So let's find a comfortable seat. Ground through both sides of your sitting bones. Allow your spine to lift, creating an openness at your chest, the heart center. And shift around anyway, perhaps rolling the shoulders a few times to get a little more into your body, into this time and space. As you feel your body breathing just as it is. Are there any thoughts or emotions you are particularly carrying right now? What are you perhaps being asked to tend to by your inner guidance? Allowing this practice of yoga to truly be the meaning of union, uniting with your whole self. Being all that's there. You might join your hands together at your heart as you perhaps set an intention or dedication for your practice. Feel the wave of your in-breath expand within your physical body. And the wave of your out-breath, feel a release, an emptying. Now, as you place your hands down onto your belly, close your lips and focus on breathing into your belly. So you feel it expand as you inhale, and you feel it draw in towards your spine as you exhale. Accentuate the exhalation of percussively drawing your belly inward. As we're about to begin Kapalabhati Pranayama, breath of fire. Now you could continue placing your hands on your belly as we start that, or Ego Eradicator Kriya is to raise your arms straight, diagonally 60 degrees, thumbs pointing towards the sky, fingers curled in, with an active stretch between your thumb and index fingers, closing your eyes and steadying your gaze at the center of your forehead. Kind of sounds like you're blowing your nose quickly like this. So I'm about to start the timer for 1 minute. Keep your shoulders relaxed, your spine tall, your face relaxed, and focus on creating that warmth at your navel center, solar plexus, and sacral region. All right, preparing for 1 minute. Ready, begin. Pause, take a deep breath in. Hold your breath in, lift your pelvic floor, draw your navel in and up. And then slowly through your mouth, let it go and bring your thumbs together to touch overhead with your eyes still closed. Then release your palms face down out by your sides and onto your lap. And just pause for a moment to observe. Allow a slow inhalation to gently expand your belly, then your side ribs, then your chest. An equally slow exhalation to release through your nose. Now creating a whispering sound, very gentle, as you softly constrict the back of your throat using Ujjayi pranayama or victorious breath work to continue to warm your body, steady your focus, and relax your nervous system. Hear your breath smoothly balance in and out through your nose. And if you're sitting cross-legged, I invite you to switch the cross of your legs. Backstroke your left hand to the ground behind your pelvis. I'm mirroring you, and raise your right arm up. Press down to your pelvis, lift up to your spine as you breathe in. And then at your waistline, twist to your left side and lower your right hand. Whether you're grabbing hold of your leg or you're pressing your outer hand outside of your left thigh. Continue to lengthen your spine and feel that the crown of your head aligns above your tailbone. Your chest is broadly open and your shoulders are relaxed down, allowing space even in your cervical spine. Perhaps looking over your left shoulder as we take 3 more deep breaths. At the bottom of this exhalation, unwind your spine. Backstroke your right hand behind your pelvis. Raise your left arm up. Root into the ground as you breathe in and lift. Exhale at your waistline, twist. Lower your left hand to either catch hold of your leg or to press against the outside of your right thigh. Feel the alignment of crown above tailbone as you release your shoulder blades downward and broaden your chest. Perhaps looking over your right shoulder the last 3 breaths. At the end of your exhalation, unwind your spine, and let's bring the soles of your feet together in bound angle pose. As you catch hold of your outer ankles, feet, or big toes, sit up tall and begin to circle your spine, starting with small circles forward and back. Feeling your breath guide the pace. And perhaps expanding the circles. And switching directions. Come back to center. Lift up your sternum right at the middle of your chest and take a deep breath. And then from there, like there's a string pulling it past the front of your mat. Bow in slowly. And the further you bow, feel the counter force of rooting downward to your left and right sitting bones, while still broadening your chest. Perhaps you walk your hands forward. Let's take then cross towards you, and again lead with your sternum as you inhale to rise up. Let's come on down, all fours, your hands and knees. As you set your knees directly under your hips, just your shoulders, coming into modified plank pose. See that your index fingers are both pointing forward, parallel to each other as your thumbs are widely flat. Press the ground away and feel space within your shoulder joints as you create a rotation of your outer upper arms or triceps towards the wall behind you. Broaden your sternum, chest forward, and lengthen your neck on the ground in front of your hands. Now feel a slight lift of your belly. Just practice. And each breath further towards the wall behind you, crown of your head further towards the wall in front of you. Now as we stay another 3 breaths in plank, you might opt to straighten your legs where the heels stack directly above the balls of your feet, and you continue from crown, tail, firming your heels back so you engage the front muscles of your thighs, your triceps. Let's enter a modified vinyasa. Set your knees down, glide forward, and as you exhale, bend your elbows close to your side ribs to lower first your chin, then your belly, then pelvis, legs flat. Pointing your toes, actively press the tops of your feet into your mat as your wrists are alongside your floating ribs. Keep hugging your elbows close as you inhale to contract just beneath your shoulder blades to lift and broaden your chest. Looking on the ground ahead, let's take 2 more breaths in baby cobra pose. Notice that the activity of your legs lifts your knees to not touch the floor as your pelvis is rooted down, toenails are rooted down. This action provides support to lengthen your lower spine in our back bends. Now exhale, come down, lower your forehead, relax your legs, keep your hands where they are. Take a deep breath. And let's try again. Inhale, cobra, perhaps a little bit higher as you draw the front of your shoulder heads back. And as you press your shoulder blades down your back without straining your neck. Take another inhalation, lengthen your tailbone towards your inner heels, broaden your chest forward. And exhale, lower forehead to the ground. Now this next one, you could either practice cobra again or firm down with your hands so much that you lift your pelvis. Draw your shoulder heads back to stack right above your wrists. Broaden your chest forward of your wrists. Now an upward facing dog or Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Take another breath or 2. Notice the belly is firm, not lax. Tops of the feet are rooting down, tailbone is lengthening back. And then let's meet in child's pose, separating your knees. Bring the inner edges of your feet to touch and lower your pelvis all the way back and down to your heels. As you stretch your arms forward, rest your forehead down. A few breaths. And as you honor how you're feeling in any given moment of this practice, truthfully practicing a balance of effort and ease. Know when you might need moments to rest on your own and come back to this pose. As you extend your arms forward, index fingers parallel, rotate your triceps towards the earth again and feel the broadening across your shoulders as you lengthen your neck. Separate your feet a little wider than hips distance apart, then tuck your toes, press the ground as high as you can, perhaps bending your knees generously. Try to feel a sort of flat back as you firm your belly inward and as you drop your skull. For the feet here in downward facing dog, you might choose to pedal out your feet, soft move your skull. If you'd like to move, if so, open your body up. And as you begin to hold still, parallel your feet. Lift your sitting bones as high as possible, perhaps bending the knees. Gaze at one spot towards your feet on the floor. Lift your shoulders high away from your neck. Feel your heels become heavier even if they don't touch the ground, while pressing the front creases of your hips back. Couple more deep breaths. Svanasana. Now, as you breathe out, slowly walk your hands back to meet your, folding at the rear of your mat. And again, you could always bend your knees any amount. Just a little more weight towards the balls of your feet than your heels. And bring your hands to your hips and bend your elbows towards the sky. Lifting from your chest, engage your belly and the front of your thighs. Then inhale, slowly rise all the way up to mountain pose. Let's walk up to the front of your mat. Feet hips width apart, second toes parallel, rooting down through the four corners of each foot. As you release your arms down by your sides, palms facing forward, broaden your chest and feel the stacking of these major joints in your body to allow alignment of your spine. Your left and right shoulders, above your left and right hips, above your left and right ankles. The crown of your head, above your tailbone. Inhale, sweep your arms overhead, looking up, palms touch. Exhale, hinge forward, elongate your spine. So if it starts to round, bend your knees to eliminate that. Press your fingertips on blocks, the floor, or your legs. And inhale, stretch your spine forward, draw your shoulders back. Pour your hands flat on the floor and enter plank. As you exhale, either lower knees first, modified, or come forward through Chaturanga Dandasana. Upward facing dog. As you breathe in, ground firmly through the tops of your feet. Exhale, lift your hips high. Draw your sitting bones back. Steady your gaze for a few breaths in downward facing dog. As you breathe in, raise your right leg behind you. Breathing out, bend your right knee as though your heel was trying to touch your glute. Keep your hips square, draw the left hip back. And as you inhale, see if you can lift your right knee a little higher towards your rear wall and ceiling while engaging your belly in. Now, as you exhale, contract the belly more actively to round slowly forward, bending your right knee towards your nose to gently land your right foot just inside of your right hand. Set your left knee down and untuck the toes. Legs hips width apart, front knee directly above front heel. Now, without moving your legs, imagine you're scissoring them towards each other to create stability and slowly rise up with arms overhead. If you need more support, press your two hands on top of your right thigh. But can you slightly lift your frontal hip bones and direct your tailbone further down and perhaps even slightly forward as you coil your chest up and relax your shoulders down, gazing towards the sky. Perhaps the palms touch for 3 more breaths. Here in Anjaneyasana. As you breathe out, backstroke your 2 fingertips or your 2 hands and come onto your fingertips to frame your right leg. Flex your right toes up and scissor your right outer hip back. Straightening your right leg, broaden your chest, slightly lift it. Then hinge from your hips while firming your belly towards your back. A few breaths here in half split. Now remember that you could have blocks or books or platforms to raise your hands on. If you start to feel congestion in your neck and shoulder area, or if your hamstring feels really resistant, or your lower back, you have lots of ways to modify postures so that you can most benefit from them with what you're working with. Let's take one more deep breath here. As you rebend your right knee, plant your 2 hands in plank, stepping back, take a deep breath in, then lower knees first or glide forward through Chaturanga to enter your Vinyasa. To Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Take a full cycle of breath. Then inhale, raise your left leg slowly behind you. keeping your two hips pointing at the floor. Exhale, bend your left knee so heel comes closer to glutes. As you inhale, lift your left knee, if you can, a little higher towards the rear wall and ceiling while engaging the belly. Then exhale, round forward, bending your left knee towards your nose to mindfully step your left foot just inside of your left hand. Lower your right knee and tuck the toes. Legs hips distance, front knee over heel. Energetically, but not visibly, drag your legs towards each other and root down to rise. Now you could offer the support in your balance by pressing your two hands on your front thigh, or right away lift your arms, wrapping the triceps forward. Find a slight lift of the front of your pelvis to anchor your tailbone down and perhaps slightly forward. While broadening your chest up, gaze up. Perhaps your palms touch. Let's take 3 more breaths in Anjaneyasana. With an exhalation, backstroke your arms, lower your fingertips to frame your left leg, and flex your left toes up off the floor, scissoring your left outer hip back to straighten your leg. Broaden your chest forward with a slight lift of your sternum. Bow in slowly, half split. One more full breath here in Ardha Hanumanasana. On your next inhale, rebend your left knee, step right into plank, and exhale to lower into your chosen vinyasa. At any time, you could opt for cat pose, which is staying on your hands and knees. Meeting in downward dog, let your body be still for 2 breaths. This time, bring your feet together to touch in downward dog. Turn out your right leg from the hip as though entering tree pose. Flex your right foot and cross your right ankle in front of your left thigh, pressing against it to further turn open your right leg. Now lifting your sitting bones, rebound the weight off the floor to your hands, lift your shoulders and hips equally back, and relax your head for 3 more breaths. Belly engaged, supporting your lower spine. Deep inhale. And as you exhale, tap your right knee outside of your right upper arm. Set your right foot down outside of your right hand. And either lift or lower your back knee, your choice, in lizard lunge. Broadening your chest forward, look ahead of your fingertips. Flexing your right foot still, splay open your right thigh at the hip. Scissoring your right hip back as you lean the outer edge of your right foot on the ground. Perhaps come down onto your forearms, exploring the depth of this hip opener for 4 more breaths. Begin to walk your right foot to the front and center of your mat, preparing for Warrior 2. Have a block handy off to the right, just in case for triangle after. As you spin your left heel down, turn the toes slightly to face forward, and align your right heel to intersect the arch of your left foot. Bending your right knee just over the ankle, windmill your arms apart to rise. As you open your arms wide, notice your ankles land pretty much right under your wrists. As you wrap your right outer hip underneath your body, aligning the center of your right knee, center right toe down the midline of your mat. You're firming the top of your left thigh bone back towards the right wide width of your mat. Aligning your 2 hips to balance, your belly feels contained. Bending your front knee perhaps towards 90 degrees if you're opting for more rigor. Lengthen through the center of your spine and steady your gaze just past your right hand. 3 more breaths here in Warrior Two. Straightening your right leg for triangle, you might shorten your stance 2 to 3 inches to help balance. Slide your hips sideways towards the rear of your mat, reaching your right hand forward and down your right leg, or just to the right of your leg, perhaps using the block, pressing arm and leg against each other while you rotate the middle of your chest to face the sky. Softening your shoulders away from your neck. Continue to wrap your right outer hip underneath your body as you draw your tailbone back towards your left heel. Steady your gaze on one spot, perhaps up towards your left thumb. And let's take 3 more breaths here in Utthita Trikonasana. Now entering Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. You might like to bring your left hand to your left hip to help you transition. Look at the floor ahead of your right foot and bend your right knee. Crawl your right fingertips, perhaps bringing your block 6 inches ahead of your right pinky toe to the right outer corner. Drag your left foot forward as you flex it, lift the heel to the height of your hip. Turn your chest open, just like triangle, to face your left wall. With calm, steady breathing, find a focus point for your eyes to steady, and perhaps raise your left arm. Let's take 3 more breaths in half moon pose. Bending your right knee, steady your gaze on the ground again ahead of your right foot. Perhaps bring your left hand to left hip. Take your time to slowly step your left foot towards the rear of your mat, re-entering Warrior Two. Flip your right palm to face up and sweep it overhead towards your rear wall. Breathing in as you stretch your right side body in Peaceful Warrior. Breathe out as you cartwheel your hands to the floor and enter plank, perhaps a vinyasa, rest, or directly to downward facing dog. Breathe in, breathe out. Bring your to touch in downward facing dog. Turn out your left leg from the hip as though entering tree. Flex your left foot and place your left ankle in front of your right thigh, pressing against it to turn out your left leg. As you root down through your fingers, spread and hips equally up and back. Draw your navel in. Let's take 3 more breaths. Your left knee onto your left tricep, coming forward to plank. Gently land your left foot outside of your left hand. Right knee could stay lifted or lower onto the ground, lizard lunge. Gaze on the ground ahead of your fingertips and broaden your chest. Flex your left foot and splay open your left thigh, leaning just the outer edge of the foot on the floor as you softly scissor your left outer hip back. You might explore lowering down into your forearms as we take 4 more deep breaths here. Outer left hip and thigh, and your sacrum. Begin to walk foot to the front and center of your mat. Perhaps have a block on the left side of your leg. Straighten your right leg and spin the heel down, toes slightly point forward. Align left heel to arch of right foot. Then root down through your legs and windmill your arms to rise into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Wrists approximately stacked above your ankles. Feel your spine tall and centered between your hands, between your feet. Outer left hip wrapped under your body. Feel the full turnout of your left leg facing forward. Perhaps bend the knee 90 degrees. Feel the counterbalance of weight down through the outside edge of your right foot as you firm the top of your right thigh bone back towards the left edge of your mat. Steady your gaze. 3 more breaths. Let's prepare for triangles. Straighten your left leg. You might shorten your stance 2 or 3 inches. Slide your hips sideways towards the back of your mat. Reach your left hand forward and then down onto your leg or just to the left of it, maybe on a block, pressing arm and leg against each other. As you keep spinning your left outer hip under your body, left knee and middle toe haven't changed the orientation. Spin your chest slightly to face the sky and send your 2 shoulders away from your neck while directing your tailbone to lengthen towards your right outer heel. Steady your eyes. 3 more breaths. Utthita Trikonasana. Now transitioning into Ardha Chandrasana, gaze at the ground ahead of your left foot. You might like to place your right hand on your right hip. Bend your left knee, crawl your left fingertips on the ground or a block 6 inches ahead of your left pinky toe out to the left side. Drag your right foot in, flex it, lift the heel to the height of your hip, and turn your chest completely to face your right wall as you did in triangle pose. Remember that triangle is a blueprint for this posture on one leg. How's your breathing? Perhaps you raise your right arm. Perhaps you look up, which is more challenging. Let's take 3 more breaths. In Ardha Chandrasana. Taking your time to land Warrior 2, steady your gaze on the floor again ahead of your left foot. Perhaps bring your right hand to your right hip. As you bend your left knee, feel your belly engage, your center alive and supportive. Softly step your right foot towards the rear of your mat. With the arms wide open, flip the left palm to face up and enter Peaceful Warrior, leaning towards your rear wall in a side bend. Breathe in. Exhale your hands to the ground and plank. Choose Vinyasa or be still. As we meet in Downward Dog, take about 3 slow, balanced breaths through your nose. With knees bent, look past your fingertips. At the end of your exhalation, walk or float to the front of your mat. Let your feet touch as you inhale, lengthen forward. Shoulders back. Exhale, fold in. Bend your knees, sit back towards your heels in chair. Imagine there's a wall behind your back as you slide down it to lower your pelvis onto the ground. Boat pose, Navasana. Tilt back just enough to raise your toes to the height of your knees, perhaps straightening your legs or holding your legs or the floor if you need more support. Relax your shoulders, and can you bring the sense of peacefulness as you might experience in Shavasana, corpse pose, into this moment? Breathe in, breathe out. Just a few more breaths. Bending your knees, softly land your 2 feet onto the floor, separated hips width, parallel. As you ground down through your feet, lift up to your spine, broaden your chest, and relax your shoulders. With your palms face up, arms extended forward, very slowly lower onto your back. Feel the support of your team of many muscles that comprise your core, from your neck to your glutes, all around your torso. Stabilizing your spine. And once you come down, lift your legs so that your knees are directly above your hips. Draw your navel slightly inward towards your spine, lengthening your tailbone forward. Press your hands onto your lap as though you were sitting in a chair and either point or flex your feet. As your head and shoulders remain relaxed, breathe and actively press your palms against the tops of your thighs as your thighs press back into your palms. We're here for about 30 seconds more. Drawing your navel in towards your spine and slightly lifting it towards your heart as your tailbone lengthens forward, creating space in your lower back. You're activating that deep lower belly muscle, the transverse abdominis. Got 10 more seconds, perhaps breath of fire. Catch hold of your bent knees and rotate your thighs apart and together a few times, relaxing your feet. Slow the breath down again to your nose. I love activating the core, especially in our morning practices, as it brings energy and boosts metabolism for your day, empowering your digestion, not only of food, but of today's circumstances. So extend your two legs up, point or flex your feet, raise your arms towards the sky and interlace, accept your index. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, engage your transverse left arm pressing against right thigh. Keep your head lifted, and inhale, lower your left leg slowly towards the ground in front, just to hover about 2 inches. Exhale, lift your left leg slowly to rematch your right. 4 more. Inhale, lower if your neck needs support. Use your right hand behind your skull. Exhale, lift. Keep reaching your left index fingers. Inhale, lower towards the upper right corner of your room. Exhale, lift. Slow and controlled, not using momentum. Inhale, lower. Feel the spiraling energy of your torso. Exhale, lift. Last one, deep breath, lower. Exhale, lift. Lower your head and shoulders and come into happy baby. Bend your knees apart, catch your outer ankles, perhaps rock side to side as you root your tailbone to the ground. Lion's breath. Take a deep inhale into your belly. Open your eyes and mouth wide, stick out your tongue, perhaps cross your eyes, let it go. Side 2. Raise your legs up, ankles stack above hips. Flex or point your feet, interlace your fingers, point your index fingers towards the sky. Deep breath in, activate your transverse abdominis. Exhale, lift your head and shoulders. Now swing right leg forward to hover just 2 inches off the ground. Exhale, slowly raise your right leg to meet the left. That's 5. Inhale, support, place your left hand behind your head. Exhale, lift. That's 4. Inhale, lower. So this exercise actually activates more of your obliques, as you might feel in the sides of your abdomen. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Keep reaching your right index fingers forward towards the upper left corner of your room. Exhale, lift. Lost count. I think this is the last one. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Now frog pose, lying on your back. Flex your feet. Bend your knees like 90-degree angles. and splay out your inner thighs. Draw your tailbone down into the floor, shoulders and head relax. You could even add the weight of your arms resting on your inner thighs. Breathe in, perhaps a lion's breath again. Then smoothen out your breath as you close your lips. Ujjayi Pranayama. Now bring your hands to your outer thighs, draw your knees together and begin to rock and roll forward and back a few times. Coming forward, land 2 feet on the ground like chair pose. Then lift your heels off the floor as you balance. Feel that containment of your center, that aliveness. Splay out your knees. Lower your fingertips slowly forward of your mat. Heels lifted, inner edges of your feet together. Pelvis lowers back like child's pose, but it's a hybrid of a squat. You could have your hands in blocks too. Now you could use this to stretch into your lower back and hips. Rest in it, or as a preparation to enter an arm balance called Crow Bakasana, in which you place your hands 1 foot in front of your toes, shoulders width apart. Arms are like Chaturanga Dandasana as they parallel each other. You hollow your belly, bend your knees, and hug them right against your outer upper arms towards your armpits. Look on the ground 3 feet ahead of your fingertips to shift your weight forward, root down to rise through your hands, through your knees, lifting your pelvis, bring your feet together. Now, there are a variety of things you could do from here. You could come to sit in bound angle pose, which we did in the beginning. You could fly back into Chaturanga if you're feeling very energetic and want to add a vinyasa. You could lower towards a headstand if that is part of your practice. Take your choice. And we'll eventually meet lying on our bellies, face down. As you make your way onto your belly, prepare for a lower back strengthening posture called locust pose, Labasana. Your ankles close together. Don't splay wider than your hips distance. Rest your forehead on the floor and bring your arms down by your thighs, palms face down. Now think of spiraling your inner thighs slightly towards the sky, and that kind of creates a pigeon toeing action of your feet. But isolate that spiraling at your hip sockets. Try not to do it at your ankles. Feet stay parallel. Then begin to contract your back right under your shoulder blades, pressing your heels back so much that you lift everything you can on your legs, head, shoulders, arms. Now take another 5 to 8 breaths on your own count before you lower again to rest. You could add opening your arms apart, where you rotate the fronts of your shoulders back to begin turning your palms to face forward, in which you might also enter raising the arms overhead like you're holding a beach ball to give someone in front of you, where the upper arms align with your ears without cranking your neck, and you draw the shoulder blades further down your back as you lift your legs. Eyes relaxed, breath steady and smooth. And you feel that sense of peace from Shavasana, even in here. And when you're ready, let it go. Turn your head to one side. And perhaps shimmy your hips left and right. Add some movement to release your lower back. Into your stomach, take a deep breath. Out through your mouth, exhale completely. One more on our bellies. Bring your knees together for bow or Dhanurasana. Now, if you prefer the previous back bend, do that instead. Bending your knees for outer with your hands. Press your pubic bone onto the floor and kick your feet closer. Knees high. Coil your chest up. Draw your shoulders down. Relax your face, your neck. 5 to 8 more breaths. Sometimes I like to imagine there's a dove flying from my heart center forward and up, bringing a sense of buoyancy, lightness in this posture. And when you're done, let it go. Turn your head to the other side, and that's it. Deep breaths. Long side. Sip onto your hands and knees. And let's come into a counterbalancing spinal twist to open the upper back. Thread the needle. Now, if you'd like to also open your inner thighs, start by stepping your left foot out to the left side, skull flat on the ground, arch in line with your right knee. Raise your left arm and breathe in, open your chest. Exhale, thread your left arm under your right bent elbow, resting the left side of your head all the way down, perhaps on a block. By flaring your right elbow towards the sky, you have more leverage of pressing downward to your right fingertips and relaxing your shoulders down your back. Let's take 3 more slow exhalations in the spinal twist. At the end of your out breath, press into the ground to rise, and let's prepare for side 2. Now, if you straighten your left leg out to the side, do the same with your right leg. Sole the foot on the ground, arch in line with your left knee. Then inhale, raise your right arm, open your chest. Exhale, thread it under your left bent elbow. Right side of your head resting all the way down, perhaps on a prop. Left elbow pointing towards the sky, shoulders melting down your back. 3 more deep exhalations, cleansing breaths. At the end of your out breath, slowly lift up to sit with your legs in front of you. Bring your feet together, and we're going to re-enter that Sufi roll we did at the start, holding your ankles or feet and slowly rotating your spine. Perhaps beginning with small circles and then enlarging the diameter. Switching directions. Now extend your left leg forward. We're going to come into a forward fold, so if you want to put a strap around the ball of your left foot to help you with that, you could. Flex your left foot and cross your right thigh over your left thigh to stack your knees. Ground firmly through your sitting bones and lift your sternum, lengthen your spine, breathe in. Start to hinge forward towards your left foot as you breathe out. This is a great posture to not only physically open your left hamstring, lower back, glutes, outer hip, but it also helps to relieve pain if you experience any sciatica issues. And forward folding in our yoga postures helps to invite introspection as we're also more deeply cooling down. Opening the mind for meditation. And breathe in to slowly rise. If you have a strap, transfer it over to your right foot. Flex your right foot. Cross your left thigh completely over the right. Stack your knees. Press down with your pelvis. Lift up to your crown. And exhale, begin to hinge forward from your hips. Breath by breath. Half cow face pose, or Ardha Gomukhasana. Today, in the Indian culture, as I understand, they're celebrating Diwali, Festival of Lights. And behind that is the meaning of celebrating light, overcoming darkness, and truth, overcoming ignorance. This is heavy in our yoga philosophy. And how does that play in with addressing emotions like anger or grief? Allowing whatever needs to be processed to be recognized and processed, rather than hidden and suppressed. Lead with your chest. Inhale to slowly rise. So find a way to set your body up comfortably to rest in corpse pose, Shavasana. If you have a wall, you could even use the cooling inversion and put your legs at the wall or on a chair or pillow. Make any final adjustments as you arrive in that resting pose. You might take a big sigh after holding your breath in. And then just let it all go, that effort of focusing, the effort of engaging. Allow peace to come naturally and letting go, letting be. Trusting the process. Should you choose to stay for 5 minutes of sitting meditation, I invite you to begin moving your body gently. Ease your way up to a comfortable seat. Sitting tall and relaxed with any props you might need. Though I won't be leading the meditation, just setting the timer for 5 minutes, I would like to offer these reflections in relation to our theme. Mantras. May I welcome all my feelings, including perhaps grief. May I allow so-called negative feelings, including grief, to soften and strengthen my heart. May I hold any of my sorrows with tenderness and compassion.
I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I
you allow your breath to deepen, your senses enliven to what's here around you. Joining your palms, meet at your heart as you bow in with reverence, with openness, allowing the whole spectrum of your human experience to nourish you to your fullness. Close with one Om. Take a deep breath. Light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.